Good afternoon, Southeast Asia, and we welcome you back to the Garena Premier League Summer 2017, the prestigious league in League of Legends. Who will determine the slot for the playing stage? Will it be Ascension or will it be Young Generation? This is Match Point with Ascension Gaming at 2-0.
Yes, indeed. And wow, I mean, Ascension Gaming definitely showing that they've done their homework in preparation for Young Generation, while Young Generation still in these awkward moments, and we're definitely seeing a lot more of their weak points as these days have gone by here. But let's go ahead and check out the drafting here. Ascension going to be banning out Lulu, Rek'Sai, and Renekton respectively from Young Generation. Diverse, actually. And the bans coming in from Young Generation. Jarvan IV, they clearly don't want to give that to Jisoo. And along with the Sejuani, no surprise right there, as well as the Kalista for Lloyd.
So who are you actually rooting for? That's the real question. Are you rooting for Ascension or YG?
Personally, man, you just had to put me in that position. But to be honest, I'm definitely rooting for Ascension in this case. I feel like they definitely have a lot more to give. They have the experience, and I'm definitely confident that they'll perform on the world stage. But still, regardless, I have to say Young Generation I've been a fan of as well, because they've had a great performance. Like I mentioned, they bested most of the Southeast Asian teams in the GPL, so that is definitely it's a good showing of just how strong Vietnam as a country is as a whole. But we'll just have to see as we look into the picks here. Varus again going to be prioritized for Lloyd here, with Gragas and Kog'Maw going to be locked in for both Venus and Victoria, unless they flex it, of course, towards top side for Nocti.
So as for Ascension, this is going to be their match point, as I said. Whereas Young Generation, they're going to be trying to pull something off here. This is going to be the classic Kog'Maw and Janna combo. For we've seen previously in the GPL, this has been used by TME against KLH. It worked really well onto the late game, but I wonder if Young Generation will eventually reach the late game, seeing how they did prioritize the Varus. So let's see. YG removing the Thresh, a threat towards the Kog'Maw.
Interesting. So we'll just have to see again if ever there's going to be a little bit of a drought as to what Warlock can pull out here. I'm actually interested in seeing what he will potentially pick to complement this Varus here, because Thresh would have actually been a great pick to go with it, especially with the safety of the Dark Passage and all the potential in the world to set up against a Kog'Maw and a Janna. So, but nonetheless, Maokai going to be taken away from Young Generation. That actually would have been quite substantial, considering that they would have gotten a great hold, especially if they did manage to get to dive in onto Lloyd here. But still, we're waiting for this second ban, for the second banning rotation coming in from Young Generation. It is no surprise, Alistar, a lot of heavy focus onto Warlock there to grant a lot more vulnerability for Jisoo here, and not to mention losing out on some potential setups as well. Cassiopeia gonna be taken away from Naol again. Consistent ban here for the mid laner of Young Generation. We have seen just how potent and powerful he is on that pick.
As far as we can tell from Ascension's game plan, they are removing a lot of favorites from YG. But for YG, what they're doing right now is removing all the threats for Big Coro for that Kog'Maw. So I wonder if Ascension, they still can pick up the Braum. We did see it previously in the second game. However, not that effective all throughout, seeing how Ascension was so good at zoning out YG, so that we didn't even see a Braum really be that useful, but it would be instead a Taric.
Fabulous. Yes, I'm liking this. But what I like about Young Generation is they're kind of playing the mind game here as well with Ascension Gaming, wherein we're seeing the Corki being picked out, so there is still that question as to whether or not Young Generation will be sending this progress, whether towards top or towards jungle. But Talia going to be locked in for G4 here. Overall, very promising composition that Ascension Gaming here has. So the Jace is going to be sent to the top lane, so we will have to see how Young Generation will be responding to this.
Interesting picks coming from YG.
Wow.
Whoa, a Galio. This is going to be Protect, the last hope for Young Generation, which is going to be Big Coro.
Quite the apt description that you gave here, because not only is the protection there for Coro, but they have to protect their Vi to get that seed to Worlds here, because one more loss against Ascension Gaming ultimately puts the Thai team into that plane to Worlds in China.
So this is going to be match point. Will Young Generation make it out alive for a maybe possible reverse sweep, or will Ascension just close the deal against YG and further solidify their place as one of the strongest teams in Southeast Asia, moving on to China Worlds 2017?
Indeed. So, but nonetheless, looking at the composition here, definitely Ascension loving the creativity with this draft here, and especially the Taric as well. With that ultimate could negate quite a bit of that damage coming in from Young Generation here, but nonetheless, we'll just have to see though. This Janna very substantial though for the side of Young Generation as well. Leading into the Ardent Sensor again, pretty nifty, especially considering that this is a Cogmaw, along with the core key in a way that will benefit. So we'll just have to see. Really pumped for this game.
But we are just gonna be seeing how Young Generation. I just get excited when I see a Cogmaw and a Janna, because you still have that element of surprise where suddenly you're seeing this Cogmaw become a huge threat, but at the early phase, it's nothing. So this is going to be a gamble for Ascension, seeing how the games do drag on until 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So I think Young Generation, they are going to be projecting this game all throughout, let's say, 35-minute mark.
Indeed. And in order to relieve that, I feel like there's definitely a lot on Nuni here, which is actually why I like the Talia draft as well, because the Talia could actually get some good roam on to potentially get that shutdown onto Young Generation. But as to whether or not Ascension Gaming will be able to execute it, because like you mentioned, by history, there has been those instances where they kind of drag it along, and that's something that they want to avoid, especially with this Cogmaw drafted for Young Generation.
So, to everyone in Southeast Asia, who do you think is going to win? Will it be Young Generation or Ascension? This is match point. So, if Ascension wins this game, this is game over for Young Generation. This is their first time entering the Garena Premier League GPL 2017 summer, where we are seeing it in the year of 2017. So I wonder how Young Generation will perform in this match point.
But here we go nonetheless for both sides here. Looking at the itemization, looks like Nowell will be opting for that Doran Shield, you know, for that extra sustain in the lane, especially against G4, who will getting a bit of poke on with this Talia. Also here, now that I notice here, Nuni actually running this Zac, so this is actually very much complementary along with that Talia, so this will definitely grant them a lot more powerful ganks on, and especially the roam potential with this Talia as well, with the Weaver's Wall, blocking out escapes with Big Koro, so there's actually a lot of isolation as well. So overall, I could definitely see that Ascension Gaming is on top of things with this draft against Young Generation, but still, Young Generation, if they do get a load in towards the later parts of this game, then Big Koro is just going to explode on this Cogmaw.
So let's wait for that explosion. I mean, as far as laning phase goes and jungle routes, right now for I think the advantage would be on to both actually, because in a way that Venus heavily relies on that really early cheese. He can gank as early as level 2 or level 3. Same goes for Nuni, but it's the fact that Nuni has this powerful advantage where he's able to bypass wards, whereas for Venus, it's a bit more predictable.
Yes, there we go. As you can see, things are definitely looking subtle here for the lanes. Both junglers transitioning to that top side, and Jisoo actually has this lane pushed out, so
I want to think so. For 2-minute mark, 40 seconds, nearing in. This is still a standstill game where we are seeing Young Generation aiming to really project this game into the late game. Well, let's see. That
good offensive warding actually coming in from Venus here towards the top side, because that does give them vision. Or rather, that does give Ascension Gaming some level of vision onto Venus here, and this will be the signal for Jisoo in a way to kind of hold back a bit on pushing out this lane a bit too hard, but still, he is trading quite well, getting the trade on, getting some decent damage onto Nocti here, but the health bars are very much even for both sides, but still, we'll just have to see.
this time it will be Nocti playing instead of Jisoo, so Young Generation pulling out their substitute. Let's hope this could be the saving grace for YG, and this can be the start for the turnaround. for Young Generation, keeping their dream alive to go to Worlds for the first time.
I gotta say, interesting that they trade out Nocti here for this game 3. Ren clearly did not have the best game earlier. If anything, he wasn't as substantial during the previous game here. So we'll just have to see if that dynamic will change. Will Nocti or Nooney gets the yank onto Naul?
So far, we are going to be seeing a set out for G4. I'm sorry, for Naul. So Nooney will be playing the mid lane. This is interesting rotations from YG.
Indeed.
Putting out everything they can do to at least win this game.
But still, regardless, looks like Naul will be forced to recall. Was out of mana earlier here, but will be getting some Pokemon onto G4. G4 himself might need to get some recall on later, but still, it'll be trickier because once G4 does that recall, because of the nature of Naul, having that teleport was easily able to get back to lane, so he didn't miss out on much. G4 on the other hand, although it does have some extra movement with that passive, might have to be a little bit more careful here. Looks like he may try to wait out until he's level 6 before he gets the recall. We'll just have to see though.
And now, as we are nearing the level 6 spike for the top laners, but it's the fact that Galio is in the top lane, not in the mid lane, so not much pressure for him all throughout the map.
Venus does manage to spot out Nooney here, getting some pollination onto him, so that is vision granted. He is fully aware that Venus actually trying to steal out a camp here, but has to be careful. Then again, actually good timing because G4 did just go for that recall, and this is what I've been talking about here with G4.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Venus stealing all the efforts of Nooney. That's going to be big. That's a lot of gold.
Indeed. That was just a full take, not even sparing that one single Raptor there. And this may set Nooney back just a little bit. Patience was a virtue for Venus right there by catching that.
So far, so in the top lane side, Jisoo will really have an easier time against Nocti because that's just the Galio, and he's a physical damage dealing champion, so he won't have that much. He won't be using that spell shield throughout its full potential. So maybe they should have off from the mid lane, but who am I to judge? This is going to be Nao's quirky game where we are going to be expecting G4 on this Talia again. So level 6, let us see how the action will unfold.
Indeed, here Lloyd getting a decent push on here, trying to lean it towards Big Koro's side here, though Nooney actually towards the opposite side of the map, so just trying to make sure that he keeps up the pace with Venus for now. But G4 actually has this pushed in, so that definitely gives him great options here. He is at level 6, so anytime they could potentially make a play towards bot via the Weaver's Wall, getting the kind of canceling out any form of escape that Big Koro and Palette might have if ever they do get isolated through that Talia ult.
So, tensions are high right now, Arctic. I mean, this is the point of the game where we see all the action unfold right now. And the bot lane will be first. Exhaust, heal, use everything to stay alive.
Indeed, Lloyd is going to be forced to back away here. And as a result, Big Koro actually going to get a bit of an advantage here by getting some farm on. And that's the tricky part right here, because Lloyd and Warlock did push out this lane, so this will just grant a lot more for Big Koro, who, if anything, they will definitely reach level 6 a lot faster and will make him will put him up a bit in the CS games as well.
And seeing how Nocti is pushing his lanes naturally, it'll be very difficult for Venus to attempt for the gank. So first blood, not yet. First turret up for grabs. But if I have to see who might take it first, it could be the mid lane, seeing that it is pretty low. And we are seeing G4 on the Talia, a very heavy pushing mage.
Indeed. Fortunately, Big Koro and Palette weren't able to bounce off that wave effectively. So in exchange, with this wave pushing towards Lloyd and Warlock, this kind of helps balance things out as far as Lloyd needing to recall earlier than Big Koro, but still Big Koro is up on experience thus far, but still has not left level 6, so I'd say it's still fairly even towards this bot side here as a result. And looking at this here, G4 trying to get some really heavy push on to Naul, trying to balance out as well. Jisoo continuing to push out this lane here.
I don't think Nocti is going to have a really good time in the top lane, seeing that he is behind by a lot. But let's hope Venus will help him Looks like Jister choked his flash. The first blood will be going towards Young Generation's jungler, Venus.
Indeed, he was caught in a very tight place right there. But looks like Ascension going to go for the...
Another dive coming in. Nocti coming in for the teleport. Monsoons playing them up. Heroic Andrews is incoming. G4 gets a knock up. No more mana, but he did get the heal. But a flash will be burned for flash or flash. Nocti flashes too. Unnecessary flash, but Nocti will be taking the kill. Nooney making them kiss. He is left behind for the scraps. And now with Young Generation coming back strong. 0-3.
Indeed, that was very awkward here for Ascension Gaming. Right after losing Jisoo towards the stop side, they were trying to force a trade towards the bot, get a tower dive on, but still it wasn't quite a good idea there, as ultimately at the end of the day, at totality, a 0-3 in favor of Young Generation definitely puts the Vietnamese squad to a good start.
Might as well keep that in mind. Where? You have to think properly. Should we risk it? I mean, just because they want to make things even doesn't mean that they're going to have a really good take on it. And this is the penalty for Ascension. 0-3, this further speeds up the game only for YG, while Ascension will be slowing down just a bit. Gold lead nearing 1,300, but the concentration will be on to the top and jungle of YG.
Indeed, Jisoo gonna try to get this heavy push on towards the top side here. Won't be able to take it down just yet, but still this does put some great footing in for Ascension to potentially make a small way to get back on even ground through a first turret take. We'll just have to see though. G4 will be clearing out this wave here towards mid, and looking at the gold here across the board. The good thing is that regardless of Jisoo actually being taken down, resulting to that first blood, he's actually still quite up in comparison to Nocti here, but then again, it is very much evident here. 99 to 57. Nooney gonna try to push something here against Nocti. Does force him back to low health, but so is GC, so you have to be a little
Oh, disgusting. Look at that. YG with the up underhand. Well played. Oh my god, I just felt that.
That was just... that was just complete annihilation onto G4 right there. And looks like Young Generation, this is something that's really, really good for them. Across the board, all the lanes are definitely performing. Lloyd and Warlock just kind of so-so, still at 0-0, so still very at the neutral point, but still.
Great job for YG Online. I gotta commend them. They are really pushing the game and pushing Ascension back. This may be the chance for YG, the second seed of Vietnam, to come back in this game 3. Let us see how this will turn out. Furthermore, we are seeing 2K gold lead in favor of YG.
And the tricky part right here is that Big Koro might actually reach his spikes earlier if ever Young Generation doesn't try to push something here. Or rather, Young Ascension doesn't push something here.
Oh, chain of corruption, but the cleanse picked up by Big Koro is proving useful. This is going to be YG really pressuring Young Generation, Ascension.
Indeed, and it's going to be hard for them to take down this Kog'Maw here because the Maokai was banned. It leaves out... They don't really have any hold options as to how they could get Big Koro here. If anything, oh no.
Oh, Weaver's Wall, and Big Koro gets the short end of that stick. It looks like he won't be a very good boy. Seeing how a well-placed Weaver's Wall, a flash, was burnt by at least Pallet. He did get away. But I wonder if he can get away. There's the Howling Gale for the instant counter.
Very classic cancellation of the last slingshot there via use of that Gale, but still looking at things here though, Ascension really pushing out towards this bottom turret. Won't be able to get it just yet, but Jisoo as well. A lot of substantial damage on the turrets though, I gotta say, across the board on the turrets of Young Generation. Venus looks like will be going for the recall though.
He will be getting away.
Ooh.
Oh, you can do that?
Gets the
damn.
Looks like
I did not see that coming. Looks like Nooney's being resourceful, or I'm just not that educated. I really didn't expect that would work.
But yeah, regardless, I mean, this does allow Young Generation to save that turret by a nick of health here, but it is only a matter of time till both top and bottom go down as both turrets are low respectively. Still, now we're trying to get some push on here, making every single basic attack count here to deal damage on this mid turret here. Warlock will be coming in for mid to remedy that though.
So for our first turn, not yet taken away. Looks like it will be reversed. Seeing how Naol is doing a really good job pushing away that turret. He does want that first turret. 650 gold is a lot of money. He can make good use of that. So for G4, it's really timing straight. The stun will connect onto Naol, the dazzled by Warlock.
Indeed, unfortunately though, G4 very, very low on the mana games. And this is the tricky part when you are running a Talia in the earlier game. Because of these nerfs wherein her abilities are quite substantially high in terms of the mana cost here, it makes it trickier. But looks like Big Koro and Pallet might actually get this first turret here.
And with the first turret going to Big Koro. A lot of money. Let's see if he will catch up with Lloyd. He did finish up his Blade of the Ruined King. I think this might be more than enough money, but right now on the top slide, looks like Nocti is getting ganked. Teleport coming in. Looks like now will be during the fight. He does refund some cooldown. He did cancel his teleport.
See, this is what I'm talking about right here. G4 struggling in the mana games here. Will get a full push on, but will be forced to go back regardless, because if he stayed a little bit too long to the point wherein it would allow Young Generation to gank here, then he would just be vulnerable without any, with very low mana, not to mention does have his flash and heal up though, but you don't really want to expend those summoner spells, especially when you're in a situation that you're kind of behind.
Turret for turret, turret for turret. Ascension did pick it up, and the package is just hot right now for G4 to handle. With no mana, he is going to be tagging in Nooney. Lock up will connect, but nothing else will follow. The turret. Oh! Ridiculous. That flash by now just caught G4 by off guard. I gotta say, G4, I bet he had a heart attack.
Indeed. He's not having a good time at all in this Talia. But regardless, it was somewhat similar earlier when he was on the solution. He was at 0-2, and then there was that one fight that turned things around.
Big Koro, you nasty little dog! Look at that! He just annihilated Jisoo, and now this would be Young Generation reversing the game. A double kill for the big boy. What a play by Big Koro. Jisoo really underestimated approaching Big Koro without a care in the world and pays with a heavy price.
Indeed, here, and this is just going to be absolutely insane. They're not really able to deal with Big Koro right now, and as a result, we'll just have to see if Ascension could even deal with this in the later parts of the game. Let's go ahead and check out this replay here. Look at Big Koro just going in like a champ.
Annihilation.
Again, that last ult to seal the deal, and Uni as well, nowhere to run in this case. Procs the passive, much to waste though, goes for the double kill. Absolutely insane.
Kill score 1-7, all concentrated onto the mid laner and ADC of YG. Blade of the King is finished, 24 is completed for Naul, where we do see G4 completing the Morello. Will help him a lot with his mana problems, but a bit too late. So this is going to be YG looking really, really solid right now. Let's hope they maintain this, keep it up, and they might get a shot to go to China.
And there's going to be a lot of restraint here as to how much Ascension Gaming can maneuver across this map. Key on, spot on vision, offensive warding rather, coming in from Young Generation here. So they have to be a little bit more careful, because otherwise, as earlier, they're going to experience these awkward moments where, especially hopefully not to Big Koro, because Big Koro, once you get caught out, all that damage, absolutely insane, just going to melt you down.
Just what we saw in the top lane. I gotta say, Jisoo, he really has to, wait, that's not the right word, but in a way that he has to determine or analyze Big Koro's power level right now in a way that he will not be caught off guard, really not respecting that ardent sensor on palette to really boost up Big Koro.
And the tricky part here is that if you're going to look at the lockdowns that Ascension Gaming has in order to take down Big Koro, it's very much easily cancelled by the way Nooney try to force something.
Protection from palette is just proving too much for Nooney.
Yeah, this is tricky. There's just so many ways that Young Generation could actually even fend off and initiate coming in from Ascension here. Again, like we have seen, Howling Gale to cancel out an Elastic Slingshot initiate from Nooney. Warlock in himself has trouble actually going into fights here to try to get in on a stun. If anything, G4 may try to get the knock-up onto Big Koro, but we'll just have to see.
No, he really wanted that guy. I mean, you can see the desperation from Nuni. Bikora manages to dodge a lot, and look at the displacement coming from the cast, but they do not die just yet. G4 is there for the respawn. Venus flashing away. Here comes Jisoo with a teleport, but the Rift Herald will finish up the inner top lane turret.
Indeed. Noxious will remain for that extra measure here as Young Generation actually, with this wave that'll eventually get pushed out towards mid, will transition to potentially taking an inner turret, and they are very much within their faculties to do so. Jisoo trying to get some poke on.
Trying to deal some damage, but he did get the Blade of the Rune King. More of a duelist item instead of a poke item. Seeing how YG is annihilating Ascension right now. Gold lead skidding up to, let's say, 7,000 wise, but now, yeah, 7,000. But for right now, we're seeing that in the mid lane. Ascension doing a really good job of defending the waves, but for YG, TM already completed for Nocti.
Yes, indeed.
So this really counters that Blade of the Rune King build.
Whew, this is absolutely insane, and we've been talking about how Big Koro is a threat, but across the board, even Naul on this Corki, 3-0 right now. Trinity Force already complete, nearing the completion of an Infinity Edge. So that's going to be a lot that Ascension Gaming has to deal with in terms of the damage output. And the tricky part here is, like I mentioned, they couldn't really get a hold of these carries here because most of their initiation tools are either tricky to execute because of the limited range coming in from War, or like I mentioned, one Howling Gale just to cancel out Nuni. And if that fails, one ultimate from the Janna.
More than enough for them to secure their victory in Game 3. Finals of GPL Summer 2017. This is going to be the slot for the play-in stage, whereas the Gigabyte Marines already securing their slot in the group stage. So it's a huge opportunity, a huge achievement. If you make yourself going to Worlds, it looks really good. I mean, you can see that I've been to Worlds. That just saying that, you can already shut people up. Saying that, what are you? I went to Worlds. And this is what Ascension and YG wants right now. This bragging right, this pride, and the experience and the opportunity to participate in the biggest League of Legends event. But right now, blue side wise, seeing some fight in Naul.
Yeah,
Doing his job, poking away Ascension.
And look at the
battle for the blue buff. But it will be YG securing that for Venus. Did not go to Naul. He would have used it properly.
Indeed, and look at how limited Ascension Gaming is right now, fearing wherever Young Generation may be because they don't have any control over their jungle sides whatsoever. Limited vision here, while Young Generation, because of their lead, just confidently roaming across this map here. And overall, this is like you've been saying, unless Ascension Gaming gets things going on in the earlier phases, Young Generation just gonna steamroll ahead, and they actually managed to help Big Koro reach his spike faster because of the lead.
Why? Why? Nuni saying why to Pallid. Why you cut me off so hard? But he is bad! The Howling Gale does miss. The Monsoon will fully channel. Pallid gets the reset for Big Koro. Big Koro going in for that turret. He does get stunned under that turret, but calls in Nocti for the help. And there is the radiance of that tower. They will be surviving this tower dive, but Warlock is blinking red with Nuni setting blob.
Man, this is absolutely insane. Not only 22, going into 23 minutes of the game. This actually makes me wonder, will Young Generation, in the long run of this best of 5, will be able to go for a potential reverse sweep, but still, inhibitor down from Ascension Gaming.
Things are not yet done yet, but I gotta say that Janna is very annoying. Seeing how it was able to really deny Nuni's engage, the all-in from Ascension, and now YG looking good.
Man, this is absolutely insane for Young Generation here, just after coming off 2 games that were quite a slump for them. Here comes here they go into the game 3, almost toppling over Ascension Gaming. And the tricky part here is that for most of the games that we've seen from the Thai squad, whenever they get this lead, they just steamroll ahead. But when they're in situations where in the behind, there is rarely that opportunity that they actually manage to get a comeback, particularly for their runs in the GPL.
And so far, 22 minutes into the game, kill score 1 to 10, gold lead, 10,000 gold lead in favor of YG.
Indeed, here we go. This is Baron up right now, and Young Generation very much within the position and control of the Rift to potentially take it. And even if Ascension does try to contest it, they might find themselves getting ace. So that's a lot that Ascension has to deal with right now.
So interesting. This is going to be big for YG. Maybe starting the reverse sweep that we all want for YG to win. So let us see. Will YG come back from this score of 2-0? Make it a 2-1 and move on to game 4 where they will have a chance and slot for Worlds.
Indeed. Looking at things here, 10,000 gold deficit at 25 minutes. That's pretty substantial, especially for Young Generation here. Ascension are just forced to kind of respond to any form of aggression that happens here. But
here comes Naol. Look at that. Venus didn't even last even a second there. Now he's dead. Now what can YG do? This is Ascension trying to fight back.
Yeah, that
denying that hope for YG.
That is a small consolation prize though, and an isolated target from Young Generation, but still, here we go.
Heroic entrance for the damage reduction. Naol will be surviving, getting kill onto Nuni. Lloyd, a bit awkward there. He does get taunted by Nocti, but will still survive. Let's see, Mikoro doing his best to poke out some damage with Naol with the poke with the Corki. May move towards the Baron. We are seeing that Venus is alive right now. They might start it up and Venus will catch up.
Indeed, there we go, just shredding away at Baron Nashor here.
Oh boy, caught off. Big. This is bad news for... Actually, what happened there was Pallet securing the kill for G4. And now Warlock can't do anything. Look at the damage. You may be invincible for now, but Big Coro will get the last line with Rampage Streak. And now with 3 members of Ascension taken down, Young Generation will be taking the Baron and perhaps Game 3, moving on to Game 4.
And here we go, Young Generation. Definitely, I gotta hand it to them. They learned from their mistakes in Game 1 and Game 2, came off with a stronger draft, better direction in this case, focusing full protect onto both Vicoro and now also, ladies and gentlemen, my oh my, is the reverse sweep dream up and going for Young Generation. We'll just have to see. Congratulations to the Vietnamese squad taking Game 3.
The second seed of Vietnam taking away Game 3, and now we will be moving on to Game 4. Could this be the start of the reverse sweep? I just love the draft of YG. The big Cora pull out from them was surprising in Ascension. I don't know what happened to them. They really were behind, ended the game at 24-minute mark.
Indeed. I got a hashtag faith in Vietnam restored for their second seed, that is, because Gigabyte Marines are already in. But yeah, that was crazy right there. Young Generation really living through their win conditions to the T. That, again, the funny thing is that Ascension Gaming allowed Young Generation to get to their spikes faster than they could. So overall, very well played indeed. I'm really looking forward to see if Young Generation could potentially get that reverse.
Let's see after the short break. We have been your shoutcasters. I'm Vulcan, and with me is Arte. See you for Game 4. Will this be the start for the reverse sweep of Young Generation?